Hi everybody, Michelle Atlas here, and today I'm excited to be wanting to talk to you about the psychology of money. I'm going to be doing Facebook Live sessions for the next several weeks, probably about this time every week, so I hope that you'll consider joining me. And I'm just checking here to see if, okay, good. Just checking to see if anybody's with me here. So if you are, if you're with me right now, if you could give me a thumbs up or a heart or something like that, it'd be wonderful. And just kind of checking. It's a little weird, you never know. So I'm just going to jump in, and you're going to see me look at my notes a little bit. This is my second Facebook Live, and so I'm still kind of a newbie at this. So I'll start by describing a little bit, why I'm talking about money, right? Because I have a feeling that the people who are going to be listening to this and who are interested in this are people who are maybe more interested in relationships and connection than money, or at least, think so. People who are interested maybe more in experiences than things. The reason I'm talking about money, why it's so important, is because how we do money is reflected in and impacts how we do so many other things in life. In fact, almost everything, and that might come as a surprise to you. But how we do money impacts how we give and receive to ourselves and to others. It impacts what we value and invest in. It's reflected in what we believe we deserve and have permission to, expect from life and from others. And it's reflected in what we believe is even possible for ourselves to achieve and to have in this life. And because money also represents the energy of commitment, we see that what we invest in tends to represent what we're committed to. And when we invest money in something, we tend to be committed to it. So it is a part of the energy of commitment as well. So how do our money beliefs and money behaviors develop? We receive a tremendous amount of money conditioning from birth until about age 9, actually, from our faith communities, our peers, certainly our parents and families, our neighbors, our schools. Almost daily, we're receiving some kind of message directly or indirectly about money. And what happens is, and that goes on again through childhood, what happens is that at about age 8 or 9, the overwhelming majority, an amazing number, like 96% of those messages actually go into the subconscious. And so they become the filters, like a lens to a pair of glasses, that we begin to see life through and navigate life or build our businesses through, and we begin to make our business decisions through those filters. And we don't realize that those filters are full of messages that may or may not be our own, and that are ultimately producing results that we may or may not be happy with. But we often kind of think, well, this is just how it is for me, right? This is just, I always have debt, or I never make as much money as somebody else, for example. Or, I can't get ahead like other people seem to. And so we don't realize that those experiences may be coming from messages that were really never our own to begin with. So today I'm going to be talking about 3 transformational tips that are particularly significant for entrepreneurs or people who are in service-based professions. Okay? And so I'm going to start with, and if you are there, if you could, I'd love to hear or, from anybody who relates to what I'm saying, or if anybody is listening and wants to make a comment regarding kind of relating to this idea of receiving messages that you have the sense are influencing your relationship with money and prosperity that you can't quite put your finger on. If this lands as truth for anybody, I'd love to hear that or see some sort of an indication of that. So I'm just going to keep going here. So the first of the 3 transformational tips that I wanted to share with you today is, number 1 is that we really need to abandon this belief that the amount of money that we have now dictates what's possible for us to have in the future, to earn or to achieve in the future. And so it's kind of like, how do we do this, right? And so it's kind of like the old Einstein teaching where we can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that it was created with, or that we created it with, right? So the way that we create a different future for ourselves is by stepping outside of our status quo, by making money decisions that are not really quite within our comfort zone. And so we want to, when it comes to trying to create a new financial future, we want to be making decisions that are based upon who we are becoming or who we hope to become, what we're stretching into, the vision that we have for ourselves and our life, right? And so on that note, I want to make an important distinction between a stretch and a hardship. We obviously don't want to create hardship for ourselves. We don't want to end up making decisions that harm ourselves or harm anybody else. But in the spirit of avoiding hardship, a lot of the time people will make decisions within their comfort zone or their status quo, and they continue to get the same limiting results and don't understand why, right? So again, you want to feel some sort of a stretch. It's going to be to some degree uncomfortable, and that's how you begin to create a different future than a different circumstance than the one you're living in right now. Tip number 2 is learning to empower your voice so that you can speak with confidence and clarity when it comes to money. Again, if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're, even if you're working in a conventional work environment, we all need to have money conversations with, customers, clients, patients, students, spouses, all children, all the time in our lives. And so, oh, thank you. Hi, Marianne. So good to see you. Got it. Oh, how cool. Okay. Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining me. So, this topic of empowered money conversations is very complex, and I'm going to be able to just touch into like the tip of the iceberg today. And so there's a couple of angles on this that I think I can include in this Facebook Live. Number 1, our money conversations begin with the narrative in our own mind. What are we saying to ourselves about money and about our money circumstances? And even more so, what are we saying to ourselves about our value, right? So what happens for a lot of people with the best intentions who are trying to manifest a more abundant, more prosperous business or future is that they are unknowingly attempting to create that abundance from a place of scarcity, from a place that's full of scarcity beliefs. And so what I mean by that is when we walk around worrying about money all the time, or making negative comments about other people's money habits, for example, judging other people, feeling like we're in some kind of a victim space regarding money and then trying to create more money from that place. It's like law of nature 101, can't happen. Physics 101. Life will always match our frequency. And so if we're in a place of scarcity, subtly or not so subtly, we're not going to be creating abundance from that space. So we want to look at the narrative going on the inside. Secondly, if you're providing a service or a product to another party, you want to understand that what you're charging a person for is the results that they get, or the quality of the product, for example. And I'm saying this because I know that Marianne, who's listening, is working with a product, and that this might apply to, where you want your customer to understand, to have the focus on the quality that they're going to receive for your services, rather than a dollar per hour kind of a mentality. And there's, again, so much that could be said about all this. This is all a very multi-layered area. I'm going to move on in the service of time to transformational tip number 3, which is establishing money boundaries so that fluctuating external circumstances cannot chip away at your passions, your purpose, or your self-worth. I'm going to say that one more time. Establishing money boundaries so that fluctuating external circumstances cannot chip away at your passions, your purpose, or your self-worth. And so how do we do this? It's another deep topic. And so, number 1, we need to find a place of neutrality within when it comes to the experience of clients or customers saying yes or no to our services or to our product. And so when we're in this space of kind of this roller coaster journey of, being really on a high when someone says yes and then plummeting into the depths of depression every time somebody says no, this is not an abundant state of being, and it doesn't really magnetize more abundance. And so most of the time people are making choices based on a multitude of factors that have nothing to do with us. And so it's important to find a practice or an affirmation or a mantra that you create for yourself that helps you remain in a place of neutrality when you're having these money-based interactions with a client or a customer. And because what happens when you don't, and when you're fluctuating and up and down and all over the place based on something outside of yourself, this is when we see people discounting their services before the client even asks for some help, or being really uncomfortable stating their fees, or lending money to people that don't pay them back. Literally have a very, very long list of things that happen when someone has poor money boundaries. And again, this is all based on how very often those messages I mentioned early on that we receive from birth until about age 9 about money, many of us, particularly women, translate those messages into beliefs about our worth. And then they show up in all kinds of other dynamics in our life, in relationships, in business, and in our health, even many different areas of life. Because if we interchange the word, money with our worth, we can see how powerfully this can play out, and why it's so important to pay attention to all of these truths, really, these core teachings. So I think that's it for today. I'm just curious, any comments, any feedback, any questions that I can answer while we're still together? Okay. Okay. So give me a thumbs up if you related to what I'm talking about, if this lands as kind of making sense, if this feels like useful information for you, if there's a question that you have that you'd like me to be sure to answer next time that's really up for you, that's something I said triggered, please let me know. And you can comment later too. Oh, hi, Amy. Great to see you, too. Thanks, Marianne. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. All right. Well, great to see you guys. Thanks so much for being here. And I'll see you next week if you're able to come. Take care. Bye.